Sometimes it's hard to find connections. You might be lonesome in some small town thinking there's no hope for music which plays inside your mind, the murals made by dust on hardware store walls, the accidental poetry coming out of the cashier's mouth. Does anyone else notice these things? Does anyone else care? Are they all just ignoring it? Well, today you've found us, the ones who feel it too. In the late 90s, a group of odd youngsters started making music skits, writings, and friends by using their home of nowhere, Ohio, as a muse. Now, spiraling out from that core, we are here to talk with you so that life won't be so lonely anymore. We've got an indie pop band, Third Class, at thirdclass.net, an inappropriate comedy troupe, Bullskit Productions, at bullskit.com, and so much more, including the hip-hop of Summer Camp Steve, the sample-based soundscapes of Juche, the long-running sponsorship of the Speaking of Music show at YouTube, and the Orange Avocado, a cold-pressed juicery at 1393 Boardman Canfield Road, Boardman, Ohio. Get humorous, introspective, philosophical, and candid by welcoming yourself into your new favorite show, Nursery, a podcast from Ohio's creative voice. If you'd like to sponsor an episode, email us at chlograve@gmail.com, CHLOEGRAVE@gmail.com. Look, Mom, we're on a podcast.
I notice things, and they make me laugh, and then I usually store them in the back of my head somewhere, and then they end up on the stage.
I think that there was a point in time where rap was pretty much non-existent in Ohio.
I actually grew up listening to pop music.
It's the coolest thing in the entire universe.
I love Ohio. I miss it.
Stomach started growling, and he started slowing the way he was walking and taking smaller strides, and you could tell something was definitely not right.
All my stuff has literary elements to it.
We've gotten to such a phase where people can just say they're an artist.
Wading through a sea of drunks, trying to do the best he can for the band.
Being in a room full of all your best friends, even if you don't know anybody, because you can sing and dance together and just have a really good time.
If you don't know, you don't need to know, man.
Would you like to do a podcast?
Lake Erie or the Cuyahoga River.
You're always going to make it into something, don't you? Can't just hang out.
People complain that there's nothing to do here, but there is. You just have to go look for it.
It's cold in this neck of Ohio tonight, and the style is right for a sad winter song. I feel lost like a speck in a pile out of sight, and though I try with all might, I just don't feel that strong. As we walk through a field trekking on snowy dirt, my eyes start to hurt trying to see you smile. And we talk about fears making our story short. You are scared to get shot, your bravery goes for miles. And there's more miles to go as we walk the train tracks. I think we lost the rain back in the woods we just hiked. And the store signs can glow as you walk sidewalk cracks. I think we lost the town back trading street lamps for kites. The nursery and all of the trees crossed over the dark, and some old parking lots hold my whimpering thoughts, and I'm on the next train. You and me, can't you see what this means? In the light of a torch, realize nothing is forced, nothing is forced.
Hi guys, thanks for listening to Nursery, a podcast from Ohio's creative voice. I'm your host, Lee Boyle. Don't forget to check out our websites, thirdclass.net for the music of Third Class, or bullskit.com for some inappropriate comedy skits from Bullskit Productions. I'm in Reykjavik, Iceland right now. Me and my wife and a friend from England, Emily Zinkin, are vacationing. I stopped at a couple records shops and gave out some flyers, Nursery flyers, Bullskit flyers, Third Class flyers. The town's neat. There's a lot of small, compact houses and apartments, lots of schools that look like jails. And we went sightseeing and went to see some geysers, waterfalls, rainbows, mountains, valleys, green areas, lots of mist and rain and gloomy skies, which I love. And Ohioans look at Iceland for you folks who are interested in that sort of thing. Sounds like a niche market for sure, but let me tell you this at least. When I'm here, it feels like home. And that's not because, I found the most perfect place for myself as compared to Ohio. It's not because, oh my God, everything was so horrible where my real home is. No, it's just that the people around here are relatable and fun. Yeah, that's partially because they speak English. I'm sure it's partially thanks to Americanization or colonization of culture or such things. But it's also thanks to a universal attitude that comes from people like the listeners of this podcast or people who maybe are inspiring to the podcast. It's great. You walk around, people are pretty nice, eat some good food, find some good coffee. And all of a sudden everything seems small, The town's all compact, like Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The people want to have conversations like in East Palestine, Ohio, and things like that. And so it's fun to be in Reykjavik, Iceland. We went on those tours. We walked around the town. We're hoping to be able to see the Northern Lights at some point and go to the Blue Lagoon. Those are the two things on our list before we go home. Back to Boston, flight to Boston, then drive back home to Ohio. In Boston, it was fun too. Ellen and I visited some family and went to a couple great little places there. I've been eating a lot of fish and stuff like that and drinking a lot of coffee, and my schedule is thrown off, but it's a good time. Do me a favor and write to me, chlograve@gmail.com, CHLOEGRAVE@gmail.com. Tell me what you think of Nursery Podcast, what we can do to improve the show, what we can do to make the show worse if that's the thing you're into. Or if you own a small business, sponsor an episode of Nursery. It's cheap and it's easy and it goes to a great demographic, and I'll give you a good plug. Speaking of, we have an amazing sponsor, Branch Street Coffee Roasters. 1393 Boardman Canfield Road, Boardman, Ohio. Joint sponsorship is shared with the Orange Avocado. Same address, 1393 Boardman Canfield Road, Boardman, Ohio. Both of those businesses are in the same plaza. What you get when you go to Huntington Plaza in Boardman, Ohio, near Canfield, is an amazing variety of coffee, espresso, cortado, all these kinds of cool drinks at Branch Street Coffee Roasters, who can be found at branchstreetcoffee.com. Say hello to Matt. He was interviewed on Nursery. Pick up a pastry of sorts with an amazing strong coffee. They also sell bottled cold brew there. And then go a few doors down to your right to the Orange Avocado. I work there now with my friend Peppy. It's a great job. What we do there is we sell cold pressed juices. They're pressed at a cold temperature. Nutrients are retained. Don't go to the grocery store. Go to the Orange Avocado to buy your first bottle of the Orange Avocado. It's amazing. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's oranges and avocados in a drink Or you can try something called the Sunrise, or you can try another one called Deeply Rooted. That one's good for your heart. It's healthy stuff. So if you're kind of slowing down, coming off summer, maybe you're starting to get sick even, and you need a pick-me-up, go get a shot of espresso from Branch Street Coffee Roasters, and then walk a few doors down and go to the Orange Avocado and get yourself a bottle of Miracle Milk. That's almond milk pressed in store. And see if you don't feel better. See if you don't get out of the dumps. See if your energy doesn't go up a little. It's good stuff. Thank you to those sponsors, branchstreetcoffeeroasters.com, and find the Orange Avocado on Facebook. And of course, a long-running sponsor, the Speaking of Music show at YouTube. Check out that podcast. They talk about the music of yesterday and today. Thanks for listening to Nursery. Look, Mom, we're on a podcast.
I like it when it's rainy and it's stormy out, when it's cold and it's gray and it's stormy out. The weather and the sun in the grainy south has just about gone done to warm me out. Then the sun creeps up from behind the lonely clouds, and it's raining again. I like it in the weather and the gray sunshine, when it creeps right up from a farmer's eyes, and I run through a neighborhood of old clotheslines, and I paint a louder sound in my necktie cries. Then the sun creeps up from behind the lonely clouds, and it's raining again. And I ask you about the snow in your hair and the miracles happening everywhere, and a town that seems to never care, and they blow right past in their despair without me. I know that I could help them see. Without me, I know that I could help them see.
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt this episode of Nursery Podcast. My name is Lee Boyle. I just wanted to mention a couple things to you today because I wanted to shout out to some of our sister podcasts. I don't mean that in the literal sense that we're some umbrella network that a bunch of podcasts are under. It's not that. It's just that there are a few other podcasts in Northeast Ohio that deserve mention here. You got to go find them and listen to them. Ohioans are the special breed of small-town hick and pretentious artist, and they find their way through that personality by various mentions of maybe science, maybe music, maybe poetry, maybe they try to interview their friends. You know, that we all have like similarities and weird little differences in this little pocket. So go listen to Almost Facts. That's Almost Facts. That's the name. They speculate on the mystical. They root themselves in scientific foundations, and they sometimes just go way off the deep end with things like aliens, the pineal gland, and placebo effect. I was on an episode with them about the placebo effect. Go check that out. Then, of course, check out the Makeshift podcast. The Makeshift podcast. It's amazing. Based on a group of people called the Makeshift Poets. They started doing their own volumes of poetry locally in the Youngstown and Warren areas, and they kind of just grew from there, and now they have this poetry night. They meet on Tuesday nights, first Tuesday of every month. Get a hold of them, find them online, search Makeshift Poets or the Makeshift Podcast. Good stuff. The Makeshift, amazing. I've been on there too, of course. I mean, I got associations here with these people, and they're awesome. Jimmy Fro Indie Music Show. They have interviewed my band Third Class. Check out Jim Martin on Jimmy Fro Indie Music Show. That's a great podcast. He has an episode where he interviews the lady who runs the grog shop in Cleveland Heights, Ohio. He also does another podcast, Speaking of Music Show. They're a sponsor, and we've mentioned them before. They talk about more broad strokes music. Yesterday and Today, classic rock, rap. They go all around and try to talk more culturally about larger artists. There's another one, I don't know if it's still going, but there's a wrestling podcast. It's interesting. It's called Retro Wrestling, spelled WRETRO, and then regular spelling of wrestling. Check that guy out. His name's Ouch. I believe it's WCH, I don't know, but Retro Wrestling with a WR. He it's interesting. What he does is he'll recap classic wrestling matches from, I think, all over the place. ECW, WWF, WCW. I don't know if he goes beyond that. So just a quick pit stop to mention other shows that I'd like to champion for you. And anyone who's asked about it, I know that in some cases you'll check out iTunes and you'll see Nursery podcast on there, and you'll be like, why do you only have like 3 episodes? I thought you had like 100 and some episodes. We do, but they're more manually accessible through thirdclass.net or bullskit.com. The backlog's there. You'll see something that very obviously leads you to the podcast, a podcast tab or link. And there you'll find, and I know you want your iTunes interface, but like, just go on there. They're all available through archive.org, and you can go way back. And when I say way back, I mean 2015. The year I'm recording this right now is 2016, so let's not get crazy. It's not that far back just yet, but in time. If you're listening to this recording 100 years from now, I'm hoping that we finally got over how great the Beatles are. I'm just kidding. They rule. I'm just kidding, guys. Don't hurt me. I love the Beatles. Yay!
East Palestine, some small town in Ohio. You know the kind I mean. You miss it even if you go slow. East Palestine, some people say Stein, but you know what I mean. Everything is fine in a small town in Ohio.
Here is our shared mind, Junior's Collage Steps. We are not Cooler Craft sandwiches at mammoth gas stations, grayed dandelions on winding hills navigated, the swarming campus's night spirit, graveyards on bricked fringes of college towns. We are not them, but have consumed all, grappling at mysteries and alley cracks, mugs briefly gleaming from tavern panes as we pass.
She blossoms in the front yard for passing cars. She was late this year, pink, groggy, proud. We used to hang sheet hammocks on her limbs, young peas in cloth pods. Spring grown, we fell so often. She had toilet paper around her waist one Halloween. Roots flooded by a hose one summer when she was a big, green tent. All I can do now is stay in her middle and hold on tight. Those long branches are just for caterpillars now. The summers are just a short climb. Maybe a guitar played below.
Hello, everyone. Thanks to everyone who listened to this episode of Nursery. A little bit of housekeeping on this episode, of course, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention another sponsor, Timeless Shots Photography. They do the photography for my band Third Class. It's a good friend of mine, Brandon Hall. You can go to timelessshots.com and book him for your next wedding, family photo, or maybe you're going to do what I do and just goof around and jump off of an amp holding your guitar or keyboard. Or maybe you just want to get a picture with your puppy. Me and my wife get pictures with our dogs. We're those people. Hey, I'm not scared to admit it. So if you want, just get down to the old laptop or phone and go to www.timelessshots.com. Book your photography session today with Timeless Shots Photography. Find them on Instagram, Facebook, and everywhere else. You're going to be very satisfied. This guy's very accommodating. He does exactly what you want him to do. And he has a vision. He has good ideas for backgrounds and good ideas for poses. Timeless Shots Photography. Thanks for listening, guys.